So, today I wanted to talk to you about freelance life and why freelance life can be a bit messy, and also why that is totally okay. So, in typical in typical fashion, this has been a bit of a messy start trying to even get on this live. We had a bit of a tantrum, well, not me personally, but um, my 5-year-old decided to have a bit of a tantrum when we were trying to get the live up. So we're a little bit behind schedule, but here we are, just so we can show you how messy life actually can be. But the whole point of this talk today was to talk to you about why freelance life is messy, or how it's messy, and why that's totally okay. And I wanted to talk to you about this today because I think that it's one of the things that can put some mums off getting into their own work from home businesses, particularly when you have small children at home. So, um, I know some of you might be on maternity leave and you might have really little ones at home, and you're wondering how you're going to juggle being able to work from home and looking after little kids. Some of you might have older kids like I do who are school aged, but you know they're going to be home. And I think probably for some of you, if you have had kids home and been trying to work from home the last couple of weeks, you've probably found it quite hectic and you think, oh my gosh, how could I do that all the time? Well, in reality, freelance life is not like lockdown life. Working from home in lockdown is a bit different to working from home on a regular week, particularly when you've got school age kids. So I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. I've done all sorts of different contract work on and off since since Xavier was about 3 months old. I've been doing different work from home. I did go back to work for a period for about a year, but apart from that, my work has been from home. So I have had kids around the whole time. So I totally understand what it is like trying to work from home with kids around. And actually, the reason that I work from home is primarily because I have kids. And it does, believe it or not, make life a lot easier if you can work from home when you have small children. The advantage for me, of course, one of the advantages is that having that when the kids get sick, I am able to work from home with them. Don't have to worry about taking a leave from work and that kind of thing. I just make it work. But there are times when it can get a little bit messy, and I wanted to talk to you about that. And I wanted to talk to you about some of the experiences that I've had and how I've still managed to, throughout all of that, maintain running a freelance business from home, even on the days when the kids are around, and even through lockdown when it's been kind of chaotic. So, one thing, and you would have seen I put a photo up on the feed, or you might have seen I put a photo up on my feed earlier showing me standing in my kitchen with the mess all around. And I wanted to show you that because it's you can see that we can run a business from home even when there's a mess around, and it can still look professional. So like you can see right now, if you can see me online, yeah, you might see a little bit of the mess in the background. But normally when I'm on a call with a client or I'm on a live, I wouldn't normally be standing in my kitchen with the dishes in the background. I might be sitting in my office with a bookshelf behind, or on the couch in the lounge where all you can see is a wall behind me. So the fact that my house is a mess and that there are dishes on the bench doesn't matter. I can sit myself somewhere where it looks really professional. I can do my hair, I can do my makeup, I can dress in nice work clothes if I want to. So, or if it's appropriate for the kind of meeting that I'm having. So just because the house is a mess and there's mess all around me, or there could even be kids home and they might be watching a DVD, or they might be playing on an iPad or something like that. Just because there's mess and there's kids around doesn't mean you can't work from home. It doesn't mean you can't hold meetings, and it doesn't mean that you can't be professional. Yes, you can have interruptions. I have had meetings where I've had interruptions from my kids. I've had one of my kids come and show their colouring in to one of my clients while we were on a live chat or live meeting. And I think one of the things about that is that, you might think, oh gosh, this is really unprofessional. But I know for me personally, and I'm sure for a lot of you as well, you have or you would have clients who are parents. They understand. And I think people will understand more than anything now after having been through 6 or 7 weeks of working from home with children around. They will understand if you are a work from home parent, there may be the odd interruption. You can be upfront with your clients and explain that that's the situation. You might have kids home from school for a day. You can just give them a heads up and say, look, I've got sick kids home today. It's a possibility that someone might jump in. But, and I think most people, especially after the last 6 or 7 weeks, they will totally understand. And if they don't, maybe they're not the right clients for you. I think, a lot of the clients that I work with are mums themselves, are parents themselves. And so they do understand that there's a little bit of mess involved when you're working with somebody who has kids and who might have kids that are at home. So I wanted to just raise that point with you, and just to let you know that that's actually not a barrier. That's not something that has to stop you. And as I said earlier, it isn't like this normally. It isn't all day, every day. You have the odd day where the kids are homesick, and you can sometimes reschedule meetings for the next day, or maybe you have a meeting in an evening, or have a meeting when the kids are napping if they're little, or maybe if they're playing on a device. So there's lots and lots of ways you can continue to maintain professionalism when you have kids around and you're working from home. What other things did I want to say to you today? A few tips as well for things that help to make it easier and to perhaps look a bit more professional as well if you are juggling the work from home life, is that you can try and schedule meetings at a time when your kids are either elsewhere or on a nap. Scheduling is a really important part of being able to juggle freelancing around your family commitments. Another thing that you can do as well is, I find I do a lot of my work in the evenings, and often quite late in the evenings, and I don't necessarily want people to know that I'm sending an email at midnight. Entirely up to you, but I prefer them to see me sending maybe an email during office hours. So what I do is I use my email and email program, and I schedule. So I can schedule an email, and you can do this too. I use Gmail, a Gmail based account, but I'm sure most of the email providers have something similar. And you can go in and you can just schedule your emails to send out maybe at 9 a.m. if whatever time is appropriate to send it out, so that if you're finding that it's hard to work with kids around and you have to work in the evenings, then you can send those messages and emails out at a more appropriate time using scheduling. If you can't get on a meeting and you have to communicate something verbally like this to somebody, then I would recommend that you pre-record, or you record the video maybe at night time when the kids are sleeping. And if you can't have a meeting and it's important, then you have this. Maybe you need to show somebody how to do something. Maybe you have to do a screen share and talk them through it. Then you can get on an app like Zoom, and you can record that, and you can save the video, and you can send them a link to watch the video. Loom's another really good one. So it's Zoom and Loom are both really good apps for recording videos, and then it's really easy to share a link for somebody to watch your video afterwards as well. So again, another way that you can be flexible and still communicate with people about work things when there are kids around. And another thing that's really handy, I've used a lot the last few weeks when I've been having meetings. I've still had to have, luckily I've been able to put a lot of things aside, and a lot of my work I don't have to do face to face, but some of the meetings that I have had to have, and I have had kids around, I have had a little person have a toilet accident while I was on a meeting a few days ago, and luckily, because my microphone was on mute, nobody had to know that happened. So I did get up for I was only one of a group of people on a meeting, and I did have to get up and go and clean somebody up for a few minutes, but there were no indications that that's what was going on in the meeting. So and again, I think I put it in the comment when I was in the one of my posts when I talked about this call on another one of my client calls a few years ago. I was busy chatting away and a bit distracted, and one of my sons decided to get a tub of blue paint out and paint himself. So I'm busy chatting away on the phone and talking to this client, and my son walks out painted pretty much head to toe in bright blue paint. And I just kept talking, and I pretended that nothing was going on in the background, when really I was freaking out and thinking, oh my gosh, there is blue paint everywhere. So it's all about how you handle it. And it's totally doable, and it doesn't have to be unprofessional. Nobody has to know. That particular call with the blue child was just a telephone call. And again, if you don't want to do video calls, it's quite possible for you to do calls where you have no video, or where you're just on a regular telephone call. And this is another example as well. I did have one meeting a few years ago when my youngest was just a baby, crawling around still. And at that particular meeting, I had a client that required me to come to the meeting, to physically be there. My son was off daycare sick. I had him with me, and I just had to say, look, I can come to this meeting, I can be there, but I am going to have to bring my baby with me. And the client wanted me there, so the client was happy in the situation for me to bring my baby with me. I mean, he was no trouble, so he crawled around the floor and my, was just playing there. But again, it was something that was doable. You just have to make it happen, and it doesn't have to be really a big messy thing or a big problem. It's just about communication a lot of the time. So I think that is everything I had on my notes to talk with you about today. I hope you are having a good week and that you're not going crazy in lockdown. Fingers crossed that we only have a little bit of time before we get back out into the world and kids go back to school and work will be a lot easier. So I hope you have a wonderful day, have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you again on Monday. Bye.